somatic tracking. So this is something that we do in the program, and it's from Alan Gordon's book, but there's a lot of people that use it, practitioners who use somatic tracking. And somatic tracking is fantastic because what it allows us to do is separate our fear from what's actually happening. Now, the way that I do it, I say it out loud, because saying it out loud is really important, because actually what I want to do is use different parts of my brain, because when we do somatic tracking, or when I do somatic tracking, I've taken it as what I want to do is interrupt that signal. I want to stop that signal from happening. And in order to do that, I've got to make my brain shift in a way so that it doesn't carry on going down that route into the fear cycle of going, oh my God, I'm in pain, this is terrible. So I use something, I talk out loud, and I also do something that a therapist taught me when I first got ill with long COVID. And she said, what you want to do when you are trying to reach for joy or reach for anything is use language that is a little bit hard to get to. So what that means is, rather than saying, ow, my arm is stinging, when I describe a pain that is happening, I will try and describe it in a way that is a bit more, I have to use my brain to visualize. So I tend to go with, oh, it feels like there's a squirrel crawling up my arm. Because what that does is it allows visualization, it allows me to be silly, and if I'm silly, then actually that's also releasing different hormones in my brain that are dopamine and serotonin and things that make me feel good. But also it means that my brain has to stretch to try and describe something in a way that isn't natural. So it's automatically taking the focus from the pain center and the pain signals and moving it somewhere else. So you do whatever works for you, obviously. My examples are going to be silly, but that's who I am and how I am, and that's what's worked for me. I haven't had to do somatic tracking for a little while because actually I've been on a really nice up, but because we know that obviously it does this, I'm on a dip at the moment because I've been challenging myself. So rather than panic about what's happening in my body, I've just been making sure that I've gone back to the somatic tracking as a strategy to try and notice it and just be at peace with it and welcome it in as much as I possibly can without panicking, because we know it's neuroplastic and it's nothing to fear. I hope it's helpful.
Somatic tracking for pains. I get sharp pains in my ankles and my knees. So actually what I don't want to say is pain. What I'm going to say instead is I'm going to try and describe it. So it's small, tiny mouse biting on little bits of cheese that sit in my ankle and sit in my knee, and it feels also like the mouse is trying to burrow in. Okay. Sensations all down my shoulders and into my legs, and they feel like, what do they feel like? They feel heavy. They feel like prickles. They feel like I am full of heat, heavy heat, like a coat worn on the inside, maybe. Trying to muster up the energy to move, just move. I managed to get dressed. So this sensation that I'm just going to do a quick somatic track on, I found it really difficult to accept that fatigue and tiredness was another sensation like the pain. So the fatigue, I'm just going to do a somatic track on that now. It starts in my head, and what does that feel like in my head? In my head, that feels like a brick behind my skull. It feels like a weighted jacket on my shoulders. It feels like heat in my eyes. It feels like, what else does it feel like? Feels like a weight hanging off my heart. It feels like lead boots on my feet. It feels like rocks in my hips, boulders in my hips, big heavy boulders. That's what fatigue, those are the sensations that I've got in my body right now. Okay, and I can take those sensations with me wherever I go because they're neuroplastic. They're not something I have to be afraid of. Okay, I got myself up and out. I've just got back and I'm gonna track the pains in my shoulders. So what do they feel like? They feel like, oh, like something's got, like a big centipede's got really heavy shoes running across and up and down my shoulder blades and spine, just stamping its little feet. Okay, I'm trying to unpack my shopping and some fatigue is trying to land. So to track that, it feels like I'm holding two really heavy suitcases in both of my arms, and in those suitcases is what's in the suitcases. How heavy does it feel? It feels like there's maybe an Alsatian dog in each suitcase. It's that heavy. Okay. Chickens. There are now chickens pecking my thighs. Peck, 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 peck. And mice in my ankles. Okay, right now I've got sensations running all the way down, up and down my legs. So I'm going to try and name that whilst using helpful positive words. So it feels like, what does it even feel like? This is what's hard. Feels like big, flat, hard stones. It feels like walking across a pebbly beach with no shoes. It feels like hard hail and solid rain.